Welcome to Salve, a therapeutic podcast for digital ailments. We're here to ease your online aches and entrepreneurial anxieties, one session at a time, with our host Jordan Brannon, president and co-founder of Coalition Technologies. Today's worrying condition, the debilitating hangover caused by AI hype cycles.
You know that feeling when you wake up, you reach for your phone, and before you've even had a sip of coffee, you already feel like you're behind? You've just opened LinkedIn, and there's a 10 AI tools that will make your entire department obsolete by lunch article posted by somebody you had some respect for. Maybe for a break, you jump over to X, and a thread claims that a new O-series model just passed the bar exam while simultaneously writing a symphony. By the time you're at your desk, actually for your workday, you've already got a migraine. And your ache is the feeling that the ground is constantly shifting under your feet every 24 hours. And your boss isn't helping because he insists that all of these things must be true. You feel like if you don't buy into the newest AI hype cycle, your business is going to be left in the dust and your career along with it. With that note, welcome to Salve. I'm Jordan Brannon, the president and co-founder here at Coalition Technologies and the host of Salve. Today, we're treating AI release fatigue, or as one of my team members puts it, AI hangover. Here at Coalition, we've been the doctors of digital marketing for a long time. We've seen the SEO pains of the early 2010s, the mobile-first fever, the Web3 hallucinations. We've gone headless, we've come back. But in all of those things, we've survived by focusing on one thing, what actually works for the bottom line. As a leader in AI SEO, Coalition doesn't shy away from technology. We've generated over $500 million in revenue for our clients by being early adopters in the right moments. But being an early adopter is different from being a hype chaser. And today I want to give you a treatment plan, a mental framework to help you filter the noise, understand the math, and build some skills that actually last. The first step in our treatment is understanding why the noise is so loud. It's not just because the tech is cool and it's innovative. It's really because of the investment hype loop. I'm going to coin that term, trademark it. I'm not sure if I can, but I'm going to try. Investment hype loop. Think about the sheer scale of the money we're talking about. In the last couple of years, we've seen tech giants pouring hundreds of billions of dollars into compute, into these different AI companies. They've been buying NVIDIA chips like they're going out of style, and it's driven up the cost of memory everywhere. But the little, not so dirty, not so little secret of Silicon Valley is that the investment is actually dwarfing the utility today. There's many companies that are valued at $100 billion that are burning through cash faster than a rocket engine. These companies are priced as if they're operating the perfect business at a global scale. And they have to be at the forefront of the public consciousness because their valuation isn't really based on their current customers and revenue. It's based on the promise of what might be coming next. Now, this really does create a very perverse incentive. Even if a new release is just a 2% incremental improvement in reasoning, maybe a slightly faster response time, or maybe the ability to get rid of the dreaded M-dash, it still has to be marketed as the end of human labor as we know it. Now, why is that? The answer is that if the hype slows down, the investment dries up, and companies that lose billions of dollars every month can't actually survive when that's happening. The influencer echo chamber, it sort of helps to disseminate and distribute and amplify the news. All of those people out there with a LinkedIn byline that calls them an AI guru of some kind, watch carefully for them because they're really there as a parasite in this system. Another analogy is maybe they're the pharmaceutical reps of this digital illness. They're out there pitching and selling a new drug. Is the drug better? Not necessarily, but it is the one that their company makes. They need your fear of missing out, or FOMO, to keep their engagement high. They told you, hey, this new model is basically the same as the last one, but with a slightly different UI and a lower context window and more cost when we actually bill you for your usage. You're not going to click on it. And so instead, they're going to tell you that it's game-changing. There's a reality check that we need to have here. If we look at the data from 2025 from Goldman Sachs, it noted that for all of the billions that have been spent, we haven't actually seen a massive productivity miracle in the macroeconomy yet. In fact, many businesses are finding that integrating AI is actually slowing them down because they're spending all their time cleaning up the mess that AI has made. At Coalition, we've seen this in our own backyard. We get clients coming to us saying, our last agency used to write 10,000 blog posts, and now our organic traffic has flatlined. I've actually dealt with, in this podcast, a business owner whose online presence was essentially wiped out for AI content. And that's the AI hangover that's following the AI hype. The pain ultimately comes from just trusting that hype over the hard work of strategy and understanding what it is that makes your business today. Now, to treat this pain, we also need to understand the anatomy of the tool. We need to strip away the magic and look at the simple math behind it. An LLM, or large language model, is at its core a statistical likelihood interpreter. It's essentially autocompletion on steroids. When you ask an AI a question, isn't actually thinking, despite the text that might claim otherwise, about the truth. It's calculating. It's given these 500 words in the prompt. What is the most statistically probable next word? What is most likely to produce a desirable or acceptable outcome for this particular user? Now, I'll give you a couple of real-world examples from a conversation I had recently that speak to the need to know this. I was in the SEO subreddit, a place that's known for some heated debates, and was engaging with one of the moderators, their agency account. They run two there, and they use one to self-promote and one to moderate. But I was chatting with this agency, and they were talking about how they really don't believe that AI content can be detected. And they ultimately said, like, if it gets a consumer to click through to your website and convert on a form, then it's done its job. We don't have to worry more about it. And I was pushing back, saying there is a real concern that AI content can be detected and it's undesirable at scale in the web as a whole. And so owners and agencies need to be careful in how they deploy AI and how they determine good enough in their AI content evaluation. And I told him, I said, you have to be careful because AI content has a mathematical signature at scale. That mathematical signature may not necessarily be evident to one user who did get to your site and did complete that form, but it is definitely going to be more noticeable to a business like Google that has orders of scale and orders of magnitude in terms of its access to this content that individual SEOs and individual users won't have. And inside of that, it has the ability to fingerprint AI content. It can fingerprint the writing style, patterns of length, word choice. All of these different things are identifiable when you're dealing with thousands or tens of thousands of pages. And we know that Google is looking at identifying these things at significant scale. This is not just sort of hyperbole on my part. Google has been hiring and building out teams that are aimed at detecting AI content for these very reasons. It also does a lot of things already in identifying spam content or plagiarized content that allow it to filter some of that material out of the web too. And those have similar applications to AI. Now, this guy, again, operating under his pseudo agency account, was basically a glorified and his argument was, you can't trust Jordan because Jordan said so, but trust me because I said so. Even though the logic of what he's saying is completely ungrounded and unattached to reality. It's really just about how he sells AI content because he's bought into this AI hype cycle. He believes that his special prompt was a magic cloak. And frankly, I actually think a number of his posts, both inside of that sub and elsewhere, are written by AI, and they're prompted to have silly typos and things just to try and humanize them a little bit more. But you can tell a calculator to act like a poet, but it's still just ultimately doing addition. And the underlying heartbeat of the model is still based on the most likely outcome. And so search engines who've been leading in AI for decades and have a incentive to identify AI content are going to be able to identify those patterns. They're built to do that. And that's ultimately why so much AI content feels uncanny. It has the sameness of thought. Most of us, I think, can actually flag AI pretty effectively when we see it on a particular topic frequently. We've done a test to that effect, and we've shown that to be true. Subject matter experts reading repeatedly around a similar topic ultimately are able to identify AI content more readily than someone who's visiting something as a one-off. So if you want your business to be average, by all means, let AI lead, let the AI hype cycle lead. But at Coalition, we built a reputation on being leaders ourselves. We use AI to do some of the heavy lifting. It can be really useful in actually analyzing data, clustering keywords, identifying topics that might be relevant to some of the work we're doing. It can even help with some types of technical audits. But the soul of the work that we do remains human. And ultimately, one of the things that we've committed to our clients and to our team members is that we are going to be the best users of AI. We're not going to be a company that depends on AI as the company and as the execution. That's why we've maintained a really high retention rate with our clients, and we continue to do so for our 16th year running. Now, I also want to talk about what happens when you follow the hype without any kind of framework. I want to talk about some of the digital horror stories, the kind of the news cycle that you're kind of like, oh, that's a little gruesome. Many developers have been leaning on AI to write their code. We are using it internally in some cases to write code for us, and it feels fast. But a study of over 150 million lines of code found that code churn, the amount of code that has to be rewritten or thrown away because it's broken when it's been produced by AI, has doubled. So there's just a lot of bad code that is being produced. And so this idea that you can walk away from developers is really short-sighted. There was a major case study recently where a fintech startup was breached because an AI-generated code snippet included classic SQL injection vulnerabilities. We've seen secret keys and passwords that have also been exposed through some of the public-facing code base. And it's basically something that AI is prone to do because this type of practice exists commonly. And even with things like Claude's ability to review code, we still see a lot of different models out there that have been hyped producing these types of errors. Now, this also extends into the academic world. It's just not for developers. There's been so many news stories about researchers that have included made-up data, made-up citations, referencing authors, scientists, researchers who don't exist. And that's just because the AI is inclined to produce something to validate its response. And that's a really good point of information, is that a lot of LLMs, as they operate today, are using their training data to produce information and trying to answer the request. And if they don't have something to answer the request, they make it up. Or they go out and they'll invent a citation. They're going to go out and try to prove their point by finding something that seems to match their point. And if they can't, they'll invent that source itself. AIs just hallucinate credible sounding sources because that's what they're trained to do. And then lastly, my brother Joel mentioned this on LinkedIn the other day. He said you'd fire a human for that. You'd fire a human for this type of work product, but we won't because of AI. And this is perhaps one of the biggest ailments of them all. If an AI writes a blog post that libels a competitor, makes a false claim about your product, ultimately, it's your business that's responsible. But a lot of businesses have started to replace people who provide accountability in QA with more AI. And so ultimately, this accountability that falls up and typically would land with a person now begins to land on the business as a whole. And I expect that in the coming weeks and months, we'll see increasing levels of lawsuits as businesses find that they can't point their finger at a particular team member's malfeasance and realize that it's their decision to push AI heavily without human oversight that ultimately is going to get them taken to court. And that's ultimately, again, why I think the coalition approach, where we are the best users of AI, is the right approach. This idea that not only is it human in the loop, but it is a human oversight, it's a human input, it's a human evaluation of the output that ultimately determines the quality of the work that's done by AI. We expect that is where the survivable businesses are going to occur over the next several years as more businesses fall into this AI hype cycle and try and chase profit through staff reductions, but ultimately do so without providing any safety net for themselves. Now, let's close up by talking about some of the daily treatments and the practical things that we can be doing to help reduce these risks and reduce these ailments for you. How do you build up your digital immunity? How do you become AI capable without becoming an AI victim? And here's your routine. I'm going to give you something of a daily routine. First, I would say develop something of a model agnosticism. Don't get married to just ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, and don't get married to the newest model. When you hear about a new model, don't just automatically buy into the Reddit hype cycle or the LinkedIn hype cycle. Go with some pacing and spend some time systematically testing before you decide whether you want to move or commit any new part of your business to that release. Again, step back and think about how would I respond if a team member had produced this work? Do I have enough time to actually evaluate the quality of what's happening? Am I able to really consider the business impacts if this goes sideways? And ultimately, those model agnosticisms and those ways of sort of viewing model claims with skepticism are going to help you slow down your mental pace and the urgency of your beating heart so that you're able to grapple with AI in a reasonable and mature way. I would also say start looking for statistical footprints. Now, a really easy thing that we do to help understand what are the AI giveaways is we run several variants of the same prompt through a variety of models or even through the same model several times. And we start to look for the repeating and recurring themes or text elements or stylistic choices that AIs make. And you'll find that across AIs, they actually are pretty similar. There are some exceptions to this, but a lot of the mainstream AI models tend to do the same things. Now, this could be something in copy like certain word choices or, again, certain word stylings, but it can also be code approaches. It can be the way that a particular LLM or LLMs think about solving a problem. And those are the places where you want to dial in a little bit more. Do I actually think that this approach is right or best? Or is this something where AI is producing something just based on a mass understanding of scaled data or a mass repetition of scaled data? Oftentimes, if you want to produce something unique and you want to spot bugs or flaws, these are the places to do that. Especially on the content writing front, the unique thing that you can do as a business owner or as a marketer is come and be atypical, break the mold, break the average, break the norm. And so when you become capable of spotting that average, you are able to produce something more unique and more specific to you. Now, I would also suggest audit your task. So go through and say like, hey, given what I know about how models work, given what I know about their places of failure, is this a place where I believe there's a high likelihood that AI can help? Don't just jump in and throw AI at things willy-nilly because you saw it on LinkedIn, but think about, hey, this is what AI does and it does well. Is there some value that it could save me some time here? Or perhaps, given what I know again about the statistical repetition and some of the propensity it has to repeat the same elements or same code or same inspirations, is this a place where human involvement is more necessary? And then finally, I would say when you are doing these evaluations, look for tasks that are high stakes, places where you really do need human accountability. Make sure your team members around you and even you yourself are mindful of the high stakes places and let them know that even if they do use AI in supporting some of this work, ultimate review and ultimate sign-off has to be something that a human is meaningfully provided. This isn't just do it for me and then copy and paste it from a particular LLM. And then finally, I would say just take a break in the speed with which you respond to the hype cycle. If you see an interesting news story, add it to a Google Doc, send a reminder email to yourself with it, and revisit it in a few days. See if that news is already blown over and we're on to the next hype cycle. If that's what's happening, then chances are that that breaking news and that excitement was overrated, just like most everything else. Do also look for dissenting opinions. Look for people who are critical of some of the hype cycle and criticizing some of the perspectives you're seeing and criticizing some of the models and LMs. When you do that, you'll often get a more fully fleshed picture, because one of the interesting things I'm finding is that there is paid for positive hypers out there and there's paid for negative hypers out there. There's people who are pro Claude, pro ChatGPT, pro Gemini, pro DeepSeek, pro whatever it is. And they tend to dissuade people from using these others. And sometimes in evaluating the hype cycles on either side, you actually get something closer to truth. And it certainly can help calm your nerves. At Coalition Technologies, we're not just using technology or allowing technology to use us. We are really evaluating how do we become the best at deploying AI. How do we use it thoughtfully? How do we apply it in the right places? How do we make sure that what it does is better than what we could do as individuals or even as teams? And that filter and that promise of being the best users of AI is something that we bring to our clients. And that shows up in our reviews and our retention. Now, if your business is feeling the pain of AI hype, if you feel like you're kind of stuck on the cycle and you need help trying to figure out what works in AI in lots of different practice areas, this is a value that agencies bring. Talk to us at coalitiontechnologies.com, grab our phone number, fill out a contact form. Our team will be able to explain how we use AI across these different teams and how we evaluate AI across these different teams so that you don't have to be subject matter expert of 100 different AI tools in 100 different practice areas, some of which you're just not qualified to be leading anyways. And that's, again, where agencies can provide a lot of value. So I'm Jordan Brannon, and this has been another episode of Salve. I'd encourage you to stay skeptical, stay sharp, and we'll see you in the next episode as we treat your digital aches and pains.